Hey there, welcome to another Off Topic Snippet. This time I'm going to be talking about Deathstroke. Now, I know the last snippet involved Arrow. This is not that Deathstroke, as much as I'm a huge fan of Manu Bennett, and boy, I'm hoping I'm saying that name correctly. No, I'm talking about Joe Manganiello. Wow, these actors have rough names to say. I'm talking about Joe, and how his property may be the smartest one for DC and Warner Brothers to push as a movie and or franchise, which may sound a bit silly considering he's an anti-hero with all of 2 minutes of screen time. Let me explain. The DC cinematic universe is far from a polished product. From rewrites, mixed receptions, studio meddling, retcons, and questionable CGI upper lips, it's been a rough few years for the DC universe and DC fans in general. By and large, the issues have been from two main problems. WB executives are meddling with their films, and DC movies are trying to replicate a decade plus of Marvel's success. The truth is that DC has a series of characters that exist in a very different world and that deliver different types of stories. And I would also like to point out that the Phase 1 of Marvel movies were a lot smaller scale and less polished. They're very good. They're very fun, but they aren't Avengers Endgame. And I think they're trying to be Endgame before they're, the first Avenger. I mean, yes, the MCU Captain America acts essentially like comic book Superman, proving that he can work, and the people who wrote Endgame, the two writers, have said they would love to do a Superman movie. But DC doesn't have S.H.I.E.L.D. or Hydra, meaning that any stories they do will be a little bit different. Marvel's heroes will crack jokes and save the day, and DC's friendliest superhero, Aquaman, is also a fully tattooed giant that drinks and hangs out listening to metal music. So while characters like Wonder Woman and Aquaman and Shazam have found success with WB and DC, they've been letting a property that can net them a major amount of money slip by the wayside. Deathstroke. He's a genetically enhanced super mercenary that can go toe-to-toe with Batman, and even at one point in the comic stole Kid Flash's super speed to become the fastest murderer alive. In the comics, he's a lot more of a horrible person. At one point, he sleeps with his son's fiancée out of spite, and that's not even the most disturbing thing he does. Him and his wife's relationship is fairly toxic. Different runs have portrayed him slightly differently, but usually he's just kind of a one-eyed douche. Luckily, with both Arrow and, I would assume, given how much the costume for the DC cinematic appearance has borrowed from the Arkham series, he's more of just he's a bad guy. He does bad things. Sometimes he helps out other people that are kind of good, but he's not the nicest fella, but he's not also, literally gaslighting his son. The comics are they're real hit and miss, so I'm not going to be upset when they don't directly adapt it. But another thing that has made DC so successful, actors like Zachary Levi, Gal Gadot, Jason Momoa, they're super cool in real life. They are just fun people. They're I would equate them to Chris Pratt on the Marvel side of things, where they're just if you had to be stuck in an elevator with a celebrity until someone came and fixed the elevator, they would be pretty cool to hang out with. That's generally my metric for telling if I would get along with a celebrity. Would they be fun for anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes stuck in an elevator, just, making small talk, shooting the breeze. Joe Manganiello is a phenomenally likable person. He runs a D&D business that adds the death metal vibe to an otherwise fairly nerdy topic, although in recent days it's become less nerdy and more cool. He's also a comedic goldmine, and I compare him to Chris Hemsworth in his recent showing in Thor Ragnarok, where he's oh, this guy can be funny. Manganiello has been funny forever, and you might recognize him, Joe Manganiello, as Flash Thompson from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, a mercenary in Dwayne Johnson's Rampage. He also played a mostly naked werewolf on True Blood, and when I looked up this character's name, I was a little shocked that they looked at this and said, yeah, let's go with that, because his character's name was Alcide Hervero. Oof. He was also the blink and you miss it, Slade Wilson Deathstroke in the Justice League end credit scene, which, fun fact, was filmed on Zack Snyder's yacht. So, I feel bad for Zack Snyder, but I don't have a yacht, so I feel a little less bad. You might also recognize Joe Manganiello as the greatest threat to my heterosexuality, because, my God, that man is built like a brick house. So why should DC make a movie about a one-eyed murderer? Well, for starters, it would be pretty cheap, and I mean, frankly, DC screwed the pooch so many times they should be put on trial for bestiality. They can't take a ton of financial risks at this point. Part of what made Shazam so successful is it wasn't a huge movie budget, so when it did well, it did really well financially. The first John Wick film cost about $75 million to make, and Man of Steel cost roughly $300 million for WB to make. The stylized action flick has been on a steady rise for fans of movies for a long time that are just sort of sick of watching the Avengers, and I think it's a genre that could be tapped in and bring in more people. This isn't to take shots at Marvel. Of course, they've established an algorithm for milking money and emotions out of the entire world. They're the number one movie, as far as grossing film in the world. So you can't knock what they're doing. They're clearly successful, and they haven't had awkward CGI upper lips starting off their movies. My God, Justice League, what train wreck you are. But doing an action flick would be able to make Deathstroke's character in his movie different. It would scratch an itch we don't really have other than John Wick, maybe a Kingsman movie, and they are doing another one of those, but it's a genre that's not tapped into and not oversaturated. Straightforward action flick about Deathstroke being hired by Black Mask to go take out someone like Deadshot or a Falcone only to be double-crossed and sent on a path of vengeance. Sounds phenomenal to me. I mean, give Manganiello 2 or 3 scenes to really show that he can act and make you sad, make you feel things, and some comedic background character, someone that's like, on an earpiece somewhere, be like, look out, someone sent this person, sort of like the Oracle to his character. It sort of worked for The Punisher, not really well, but it can be done. Give him a TJ Miller type. Hire one of the John Wick choreographers and directors, or Tim Miller to take care of the movie to really punch up the action, and DC already has a phenomenal track record for action scenes. I mean, as much as people don't like Batman vs. Superman, although I will say the director's cut or extended edition, it's a better movie. It's not a great Superman movie, but it's a great movie. There is a difference. But no matter whether the movie's good or bad, the action is usually pretty good with the slow motion, stylized violence. So with one of those directors, it could be phenomenal. DC has always had great fight scenes and visuals in their movies. So you throw in a passionate, action-minded director and an actor that's just fun to watch on and off screen, similar to what Momoa and Cavill and Godot and Levi have done, and you can just start cashing your checks immediately. You see, Deathstroke offers DC a low-risk and high-reward film, making an opportunity and a chance to symbiotically grow with an actor that has proven he's talented and genuinely likable. Manganiello would also bring over fans from his previous work in the business of the D&D world. That's a pretty tight-knit group, and he's a pretty big figure in it. He also plays D&D with people like Vince Vaughn, just regularly. It's kind of bananas. He's shaped like a Greek god, and he plays D&D. It's weird. It's cool, but it's weird. Now, you could get Henry Cavill and him to play a session of D&D or something together, since they're both huge nerds, and by huge nerds I mean they're very dorky and also gigantic. And you have a chance to stylize a movie that Marvel can't really explore in a darker action-filled genre with swords and guns. And DC's done pretty well with great castings and solid visuals, good fight choreography, and a pretty entertaining costume design. And this is a character that sort of bundles all those up into a delicious burrito of film. So I say DC, do the right thing. Give Manganiello a chance to give you stupid amounts of money. Start repairing your relationship with your consumers, like me. Look, it's an abusive relationship. I'm too scared to leave because I love you, but you've hurt me over and over again, and eventually someone's going to intervene. I'm going to wake up and I'm going to realize this isn't for me, and I need to just go watch Avengers 18, The Return of Tony Stark, or whatever. So you have a limited window to get things together before Marvel hits us with the next Thanos saga that pulls everyone in and makes even more money. Do what Marvel can't. You don't need to be Endgame. I'll settle for something that's the love child between Fast and Furious and John Wick. I mean, Hobbs and Shaw looks great. Just make that. Anyway, that's just one weird white dude's opinion. You can take it or leave it. But this has been an off-topic snippet, and opinionated, and depressing. I hope you had fun.